So I'm Leah Ridpath. I sit on the board of directors for the organization, Cotuit Athletic Association, as does Scott Hill over there. He's our vice president. And Trish is part of our volunteer program and a past host family player housing person. I don't even know how to say that.
Host
right
mom.
now. Host mom, thank you. So we'll just go through some quick things, and then if you have any questions, feel free to jump in. Or
I've been hearing them, so.
Lisa, is there a way for people online to ask questions? Okay, so if any of you at home have questions, just let us know, and hopefully I'll keep an eye on them. That'd be great. Thank you. Okay, so I don't know how much people know about the history, but there's a little bit of a blurb about it. Cape League itself started in 1885, but there were only 4 teams. At one point, I believe, Osterville actually had a team.
Correct.
Years and years and years ago. I don't know what happened. They dissolved, I suppose. But there were ins and outs of different towns having teams, but right now there are 10. Cotuit is one of them. We sort of established in 1947, although I think we played prior to that. There was a gap too when there was war, so there were some gaps of years missing where there was no baseball because most of the GIs went to war that would have normally played baseball. So, and you can see Cotuit has won the most amount of championships with 17. We're hoping for 18 this year. So feel free to jump in anytime if you have any questions, because this is a free-for-all. Feel free to jump on in. The next slide just talks about some basic fun facts. You can see that the Kettleer name comes from a barter between the indigenous people of the area and Cotuit Santuit, where they traded for basically a brass kettle and a hoe. And somewhere along the line, someone coined the term Kettleers as the nickname. I don't even remember what year it was, but there you have it. So that's the quickie version of how we became the Kettleers. Also, Cotuit Athletic Association, which oversees the sponsorship and the fundraising for the Kettleers, is technically a charity. So every dollar raised goes back into supplying things like, you can see up there, like expenses, uniforms, travel, field maintenance, equipment, housing, coaching. Am I missing anything, you guys?
Office supplies.
You name it.
Anything to run the park, yeah.
Yeah, and it's all pretty much volunteer. I don't think anybody gets a salary of any kind, right? We're all free of charge, which is like a lot of hours, hundreds of thousands of hours of volunteer work. So the more volunteers we have, the better. So feel free, if you ever want to be a volunteer, to reach out to us. We would love more bodies. The next little page up there tells you how many major leaguers have played on the Cape League, which is a pretty big stat. 1 of 6 have played in the major leagues, or have played on the Cape that are now in the major leagues, or have played in the major leagues. So it's a pretty big number. And then you'll see notable Kettleers in MLB. So in fact, Trish and Scott here have hosted one of those players, Justin Dunn.
Justin Dunn, correct.
Did you host anybody else up there? No, some of those are old timers, more old timers.
Yeah, no, we knew Mike Ostrowski and Tony, but we housed Justin Dunn, who was from BC.
Right, so Tony right now is Oakland A's, or did he get traded? He was Oakland A's not too long ago. Mike Ostrowski, Charlie Blackman, Clevenger, Ron Darling, Lou Maloney, some sort of famous names. And those are just the famous people at Cotuit. So across the league, there's hundreds and thousands more. People ask us a lot about how we get players. This is just the quickie version. So players usually come to us from, well, you guys know, all over the country, colleges across the globe almost. Although I don't think have we had anybody from Canada?
Yes.
Yeah, there you go. So
we housed a player from Canada.
All right, cool. So we've had players from all over the country. So our GM, our manager, or our coach, our interns are involved in the process of recruiting. They're watching baseball pretty much year round and looking at stats, and they're on a computer program called Point Street all the time, looking at numbers, analytics that are really big right now in terms of recruitment. And so that's the quick version of how we get players. It's by invite only. Typically Division I, sometimes two, once in a blue moon, Division III kids, but not that often, I would say.
Right, and once in a while, junior colleges.
And right, JUCO system is a pretty good feeding ground for us. We all tend to carry really big rosters, all 10 teams, because kids come in and then they leave. Coaches will shut them down because they've thrown too many pitches or somebody's injured. Sometimes they get called up to USA Baseball. Sometimes the draft happens and all of a sudden we lose a bunch of people. What did we lose last year?
I think we were up around 70 total players that moved through this our park, and we have a final roster of 30. So an exchange of about 40.
Right, so we had 40 kids come in and out through the summer. Last year was a little bit of an anomaly because of post-pandemic and a earlier or later draft. The draft date changed.
Later draft, yeah.
Later draft date.
Yeah, we start the season with 20 permanent positions, but our roster is filled into July. And I forget the date because it has changed, but
Yeah,
we end up with 30 permanent players by mid-July. And so out of our temp kids that come, there's about 10 spots for those temporary players that come to the Cape to fill the roster while other kids are finishing up their college, you know, super regionals and all that sort of stuff.
yeah. So that's why we carry big rosters across the Cape. We also occasionally swap players with Martha's Vineyard team, Sharks. So kids sometimes will go back and forth on the ferry between Cape and Vineyard.
Right.
And then lastly, just a quick blurb about scouts. We have MLB scouts pretty much at every game. It tends to slow down a little bit as the summer winds down, but for the most part, they're there with speed guns and notepads and keeping an eye out sort of for their next sort of big superstar.
You know what's really too bad
What's that?
is the reliance on statistics has gotten out of control.
Yeah, you find the numbers are a hard way to determine whether somebody really has the skill or you don't like the stats so much.
I don't like them at all.
Yeah,
I just think it discredits a lot of players that are
yeah,
good. You had some on the championship team, that kid that played third and pitched and did the relief pitching, wherever his stats gonna be. And yet without him,
mhm,
it's like a Brock Holt. You don't find those players.
Yeah, yeah. Our coach would agree with you 100%. We have a company that comes into the Cape every year called, what's our radar? What's that company? Scott, do you remember?
Speed done.
It's like slow motion, not slow motion. Anyway, we have this company that comes in every year. It sets up our radar for us. And they do it across the Cape for every team, but every year the coach hates it so much because it doesn't give a good example of, like you're saying, you know, the true value of a player, because it's literally just about the numbers. So Cotuit might actually agree with you on that one.
Oh, I think so. Nobody ever asked the question, so therefore nobody ever answers it.
Yeah. Yeah, there now. Yeah, that's a tricky one. The Cotuit Athletic Association does a lot of stuff in the community. We tried, this is sort of one of those things where we're trying something new, just being in a library. We haven't done this before. So hopefully the word will get out and the excitement will grow about it a little bit as we do it more, but you can see some of the things that we do. We do kids clinics. The players are great because they go and they run the clinics. So the kids love it. I mean, who doesn't want to get coached by a potential MLB player or even just a college kid who's an incredible ball player? So that's great. We give out scholarships to local high school kids, baseball teams, softball teams. Anything else? What else do we do? We're kind of partnering. We're starting to partner more with local organizations. This summer, I think we're going to be partnering with Capabilities, which is great. And potentially some other sort of underserved populations that we think it's important to collaborate with and include. So we're going to be doing more of that kind of stuff. But the kids are great. We love having the kids at the ball field. There's a lot of activities for the kids. There's a lot of events at the park that we hope people will come to. We have Bark in the Park, which is bring your dog to the park day. We have Friday Red Shirt Fridays, which is when we honor our military and first responders. That's always a good thing to come to. It's always well received and a great night. We have the youth night where there's a lot of kids. We have ladies night. What else do we have? We have Father's Day.
Yeah, we have Cape League sponsors that come into the park and promote their wares, and we have a lot of smaller events, host family nights, and we have kids marshmallow roasting for the kids, and we have a welcome picnic and all sorts of stuff like that.
Yeah. We have even more stuff for people that host players or interns that they're involved in as well, events around host families. So we'll get to host families in a minute because they're a super big part of our organization. One thing we do too now is we've always had interns, but intern program has gotten really big over the last couple of years. So we're trying to grow it. We typically hire a fair amount, 25-ish, 27 sometimes. Interns are usually college kids. Sometimes they're the occasional high schooler. They come from, again, like players all over the country. They're usually broadcast major, communication majors, journalists majors, visual arts majors. You can see some of those up there, sports management. And they're looking to come to the Cape, which is sort of a premier internship, like it is a premier baseball league, to get experience and network and work on skills and build a resume. So we love having them. Unlike other teams, we try to pair them, and we're starting it this year with host families. We're hoping that we can match kids with host families so that they're getting that experience as well. And they're also going to be shadowing each other's positions as we can kind of fill them in to do those things. It gives them a broader experience of that and how the organization runs. And then a mentoring program, which Scott, you know a ton about. So if you want to.
Sure, we're bringing in local people from on the Cape, and maybe some from Boston, broadcasters, writers, sports management people, people who work for Channel 5, people who work for radio, and they're going to come in and we're going to do small Q&A mentoring things for our interns, so that, say, somebody who would like to be a broadcaster someday in MLB can pick the brain of maybe a local broadcaster from Boston and see how they got from college to job, and how that process worked. And so it will give our interns information for that end of sports, because I think it's important. The players come and everybody's excited for the players. Everybody wants to house that MLB player, but some of these interns are going to be national broadcasters. They're going to be working for Major League Baseball. They're going to be working for colleges across the country. And it would be great, even housing wise, to put some of these kids, if your kids at home want to go into communication or sports management or broadcasting at school, it would be great to have one of these kids stay with you to guide your potential, your future college student, and give them information. So having a journalist in your house, a sports journalist, if your child wants to be one, it would be a great opportunity, as well as players with kids who want to play baseball.
Yeah.
So.
I don't know if everybody can see the top right picture, the identical twins.
Oh, really?
So the reason I put them up there is because their story is interesting. So that's Chris and Steph Carey. If I see them in person, I can usually tell them apart, but I can't actually tell which one's which up there. But they're of broadcasting fame, sort of. So their great granddad is Harry Carey.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And then their dad currently calls games for the Braves. And their granddad was a broadcaster and I think an uncle. So there's
More than a broadcaster.
Yeah. So we hired them last summer. They came for the summer and they did a great job. And because they got a lot of experience here and did terrific, they were able to build a really good reel for themselves. And from that, they now have landed a job together as the first identical twins calling a game for a is it a AA, AAA affiliate? I can't
Yeah,
remember.
minor league, I forget exactly.
Minor league,
In Amarillo.
Amarillo.
It looks like they're missing fingers.
I know, it does.
You think they have
Yeah.
a ring finger that's folded
They got them
down?
crossed somehow.
You did that?
Yeah, it must be
I
something.
know that too, they're doing
Yeah, I
this.
guess if you look. closely,
They're
one on the
crossing
left.
their,
Yeah.
oddly, their,
Yeah. So they're working for a company or a team called the Sod Poodles,
Amarillo.
Amarillo Sod Poodles,
excellent.
which is super cool. Well, isn't it funny? Like, I think most minor league teams have some kooky little name.
Yes.
There's
Like
no
the yard
like,
goats.
yes, exactly,
There's a lot
the
of
yard
them.
goats, yeah. So they're doing great. We're really proud of them and we're super happy they came and spent the summer with us. And we got to meet their dads, Chip Carey. So that was fun. So yeah, you can see intern program is big. And then lastly, one of our most important programs is host family programs. So again, we match up players with families to live with. They fill out a questionnaire basically online, and it's like it's up there, we said it's sort of our version of match.com. So it's, we want to know things like, are you okay living with cats? Do you like peanut butter? Do you know the things that make somebody comfortable or uncomfortable in a house gets taken into consideration, or what the family's looking for as well, what they're what they might feel comfortable with. So we try to match them up as best we can so everybody's kind of happy for the summer. Is it a perfect scenario? Not always, but there's always a solution to something. And it's an incredible experience. Scott can actually talk to host families because you've done it.
Yeah, we did it for 10 years. Tricia and I, who's over there, but we had a very fun time doing that. It's great having, first of all, it's great giving, a home to a player or an intern in the Cape League because of some of them become family, and it's obviously very exciting when they move on into the minors and then possibly into the majors. We still have a few of our former players that we house that are in the majors, and we actually visited one up in Worcester who's still playing AAA. He was playing AAA for the Yankees. Now he's playing AAA for the Rockies out in New Mexico at the moment. But yeah, we had quite a run. Great kids, great families. We've been to player weddings. We've been to all around the country visiting them at their college parks, and really have made some lifelong friends doing it, both the kids and their parents and families.
Did you ever have more than one player at a time? Sometimes there's
Yes.
the housing, it may have room for more than one.
Yeah, Cotuit really wants to put some of the teams in the league put multiple players into houses out of it. We love putting one player into a house so you can have a more intimate relationship. Out of necessity, because of what we mentioned before, some of this massive amount of temporary players that have to come in at the beginning of the season, and the 10 temps that will stay on as permanent players. A lot of times there will be multiple players in your house. We prefer one, but especially at the beginning of the season, we have to put multiple in.
if you're willing.
Right, it's not.
Well, you got a house that's got the capacity for it.
Right,
Yeah.
we're always looking for houses. We, especially, or anybody, but especially people with younger children that are playing baseball, it's a perfect opportunity. But yeah, you're not forced to, you can have one, you can have a temporary player that may leave in 3 weeks and be done with the season. I mean, we have all sorts of different angles we can, work with.
Yeah, obviously we'd be in trouble and probably wouldn't have a league without host families.
Yeah,
You can see the pictures that are up here from last summer. So the bottom one is at the end of the summer, we have a big host family dinner of sorts.
yes.
Sort of an appreciation evening. And so we try to get a picture. But the host families are such an integral part of our community. They often come to every game. They'll travel to games for their player. They'll be involved in dinners and activities. and, take their players sometimes. I think you guys have gone into Boston with your players.
Yeah, a lot of big trips to go to friend wedding.
Yeah,
I bet some of the host families didn't even know each other until this started. You start meeting new people.
Yes.
You might not otherwise.
Very
yes,
true.
100%. And also host families end up becoming board members, like oftentimes just sort of change the path a little bit and stop hosting and become board members, or are board members and then become, it's sort of, there's a waxing and waning of like things you can do. So if anybody's ever interested in hosting, we would love to have somebody reach out to us, because it's a great experience and it's also a necessary part.
Right. And there is a stipend for the housing.
Mhm.
And technically you need to provide, a bedroom, food, available food and laundry. But I tell you, once you get them in your house and you befriend them, you're eating dinner together, you're throwing horseshoes in the backyard, you're playing volleyball, you're going to the beach. There's not a lot of off time. I think we only have a few mandatory off days. But they become, a member of the family if you put that energy into it.
Yeah. And like we said earlier too, the hope is to have interns also with host families. So now we're looking for double, the numbers, but we'll get there. And we're excited about it.
How about if we mention the comings and goings? Like what happens if you have small children and your player comes and then they go a week later? Like what happens with that? Question.
It does happen.
Just for,
You mean what happens from the point of view of the
well,
young
so
kids?
you have a
It's
8-year-old
like losing a pet.
potentially, however, that does happen. The housing people try to do their best to, if that's a concern for you, not have that happen, but in reality, they can't control that because of injuries or whatever. I mean, we had our handful of people coming and going. Again, we've still had that relationship with that person, even if they were only there for a couple weeks or a month, but it can happen.
Right.
If that is a big concern and why you wouldn't do it, we really try to make that not happen.
Yeah.
But there's no 100% proof of that. However, the interns are coming and are more likely to stay for the whole season, although they can have issues as well. But that is, if that is your concern, we are now trying to find houses for interns, which would not be as likely to happen.
Yeah, they're more likely.
If that's a concern for you not to do it because of your fear of that for your own child, I mean,
Because it does happen.
Yeah,
it can happen,
Yeah.
but that would be something to supplement that now that we're doing the interns.
yeah, for sure. What I want to point out too that's really great is all the photos. Let's see if I can go backwards. I don't know if I want to go backwards. All the photos that you've seen were by an intern. So we have a photography intern that goes to Penn State. Her name's Alyssa, and she's incredible. So she's done a lot of our graphics and our photos, and we'd be lost without her, basically. The interns make us look good. It's really what it comes down to. And if I had the room, I'd take them in, and they could live with me. But I don't.
What do you do if you can't find a place for the housing? What do you do then?
I don't know if there's been an issue where kids just couldn't
We
come.
find a way.
Yeah,
Yeah. and they
It might
may-
be those that think they're not ready that end up doing within the system. Like,
Sometimes we may have to plead a little. I'm sure.
or you merge, I mean, we've never not had someone come because they had nowhere to live.
Right.
It's never, ever happened.
yeah,
We would never let that happen.
We would double or triple, but we would find somebody that would take it.
Yeah.
Even if it's temporarily until
Yeah.
a spot opened up someplace.
yeah. I don't think we've ever told a kid they couldn't come because
No.
there's no
No.
housing.
And it's hard on the Cape because, we all know it's expensive here, and it's expensive for teenage or, early 20s to come find their own housing on the Cape to do an internship with us. And so that's why we really
Yeah.
look for the community just to step up.
They don't get paid. These are internships where they're also volunteers. And so Scott's right, it's an expensive proposition for the summer. So if
They
we
need
could,
some coverage just on housing and gas.
yes,
Yeah.
I
exactly,
guess those are the two big things.
Yeah.
exactly.
And meals, housing.
Yep, and that's exactly what we try to cover.
Like the rest of us.
Transportation costs, yeah. Because
Take
we
the edge
gotta,
off.
we gotta do something for them. They work incredibly hard.
They're already working for us.
Yeah, and unlike other franchises across the Cape, our interns are working, some of them are working year round for us. We develop a relationship with them early. We get them connected together early, and so they jump in anytime we ask them, which is incredible because it's not really the expectation. But we appreciate it because, again, they're creating content for us. They're doing marketing and photography and articles for our website. Like they're really an impressive group of young people, really impressive. Just as impressive as the players, but just in a different way.
I would think, I can't base it on experience, but I would think that dealing with the interns might be more flexible because the players are locked into practice and routines and
Yeah.
things of that sort, and they're like lemmings, they hang together. Whereas the interns are gonna be in and out, they're gonna be flowing and much more adaptable.
Yeah,
That's what I would think.
yeah.
Yeah,
And in that regard,
yeah,
I don't have the housing for anybody, unless I can
Yeah.
sleep on the porch.
they probably wouldn't care. Again,
That's
very,
what's different for us. That's what's different for those that are on the ed for exactly what you're saying is maybe an intern, maybe something that would be more of a mix. And if it's a 16-year-old daughter, maybe they could take a female intern as opposed to a, like that type of thing.
Well, it would be.
Some people stop housing because the daughters age out.
yeah.
It's a very common reason.
Yeah.
Our host families.
I won't ask
stop.
the details.
So,
Interest, we'll just say the
Yes.
interest changes.
yes, and then so like this opens up for those people that still want to do it, another option, I feel like.
Yeah, they're,
Because we appreciate when people, open their homes. It's very,
yeah,
I think that's what makes this opportunity for the interns to come to see how wonderful our community really is. I feel like.
they're I mean, like I've said, the interns are really an incredible group. They have really impressive resumes already. They're kind of hustlers. They will spend 10 hours at the park every day just working themselves to the bone. And not necessarily because we asked them, but because they love it. Because
And they're having fun doing it.
Right, they absolutely
They
love
are.
being together. They love traveling to away games together. They go into Boston together. They become a pretty tight-knit group. And they're just really smart, hardworking kids, and we think the world of them, so. And that's why we're trying to put them with host families, because we feel like we gotta give back in some way, because they give so much to us.
It's a win-win.
Yeah, yeah. Lisa, do we have any questions online or no?
No.
Are we good? Okay. Do you have any other questions?
No, they're just coming to me as we talk about it.
Well, you, I like it.
No, we appreciate
Yes.
that.
Yeah, yeah. You can always reach out to us too. We probably have some information over there, but we'll leave some stuff here for you guys, for your community.
Thank you very much.
And you guys can do with it what you want. And if anybody has any questions, you know how to find me, Lisa. And
Yeah, we just want to open it up. I mean, Osterville's right next door and, Mashpee on the other side. And
yeah,
it's really an amazing place and it's an amazing opportunity for people. And, these kids, like the first slide said, 1 in 6 go through the Cape League and it's right there. So if you love good baseball, or you want to be a part of an organization with good baseball, it's right next door. to
And you
you.
never know where your intern may end up.
I know,